The void at the edge of the Sol system tore open without light, without sound, only a distortion, like space itself flinching. One moment there was nothing but distant stars and drifting dust. The next, the Xylar Dominion arrived. Warships submerged in ordered silence, each one sliding out of folded space with predatory precision. Their hulls were vast, angular constructs of dark alloy, etched with energy veins that pulsed faintly like veins beneath skin. Thousands of them. Carriers, destroyers, siege platforms, an entire armada arranged in perfect geometric formation. No chaos, no hesitation. Just overwhelming force. At the center of it all hung the flagship Dominion's Wrath, a vessel so large it cast a shadow against the nearby starlight. Its surface shimmered with layered shields, its weapons dormant but ready. From within its command chamber, High Executor Kaeldar observed the system he had come to claim. "Confirm emergent stability," he said, his voice low, controlled. "Stability confirmed, High Executor," replied a subordinate, for slender hands gliding across holographic consoles. "All fleets present. No anomalies." Kaeldar's gaze settled on the distant star, Sol. A small, unimpressive system by Dominion standards. 8 planets, scattered debris fields, a few gas giants. Hardly worthy of notice. "And the natives?" he asked. A projection shifted, highlighting several small signatures clustered near a ringed gas giant. "Human vessels identified," the officer said. "Minimal numbers. No significant defensive grid detected. Their fleet is limited." A faint murmur rippled through the command chamber. Not fear. Amusement. Kaeldar's expression did not change, but there was satisfaction in his stillness. Another system. Another species that had reached beyond its limits, and would now be corrected. "They stand their ground?" he asked. "Yes, High Executor." "Then they misunderstand their position." He stepped forward, hands clasped behind his back, posture rigid. Every conquest followed the same pattern. Resistance, denial, collapse. It was not cruelty, it was order. The Dominion expanded because it must. Weakness was instability, and instability threatened everything. "Prepare the vanguard," he said. "We advance on their primary orbital cluster. Break their fleet, then secure their inner worlds." "Yes, High Executor." The orders flowed outward instantly. Across the armada, engines flared in synchronized bursts. The vanguard shifted formation, a spear aimed directly at the heart of human space. Then, without warning, a signal cut through the command network. "Unidentified transmission," an officer announced. "Origin human." Kaeldar did not turn. "Display." The chamber dimmed slightly as the transmission resolved into audio. No distortion. No desperation. Just a clear, measured voice. "Xylar Dominion Fleet," the voice said, calm and steady. "You are entering sovereign territory. Withdraw immediately. This is your only warning." Silence followed. For a moment, no one spoke. Then a quiet ripple of laughter spread through the chamber, contained, disciplined, but unmistakable. "A warning?" one officer said, barely concealing amusement. "From them? They show confidence," another added. "Misplaced but admirable." Kaeldar raised a hand, and the laughter ceased at once. "Play it again." The message repeated unchanged. No variation in tone. No sign of strain. It was not a bluff delivered in fear. It was composed. Kaeldar studied the waveform, the cadence, the absence of hesitation. "They mask uncertainty with civility," he said. "A common trait among lesser species." "Shall we respond?" the communications officer asked. Kaeldar considered for a moment, then shook his head. "No. Action will suffice." The transmission ended. "Advance the vanguard," he ordered. "Maintain formation. Standard engagement protocol." "Yes, High Executor." The fleet surged forward. Beyond the command chamber, the void shifted as thousands of engines burned in unison. The distance between the Dominion and the human ships began to close, steadily, inevitably. The small cluster near the gas giant held position for several seconds more, then, slowly, they began to move. Human vessels are retreating, an officer reported. Of course they are, Kildar said. They are accelerating toward their inner system. Pursue, he said without hesitation. Do not allow them to regroup. The vanguard broke formation slightly, adjusting course. Faster ships moved ahead, eager to engage. The distance shrank further. For a while, everything proceeded exactly as expected. Then the first anomaly appeared. High Executor, a sensor officer said, his tone shifting. We are detecting irregular gravitational fluctuations. Kildar did not turn. Clarify. Localized distortions. Minor but inconsistent with known stellar phenomena. Cause? Unknown. Another officer leaned in. Interference from the gas giant's magnetosphere, perhaps. Adjust filters, Kildar said. Ignore non-critical variants. Yes, High Executor. The readings were suppressed. The fleet continued forward. Seconds later, another report. Communications latency increasing by 0.03%. Within acceptable limits, Kildar replied. Yes, High Executor. The anomalies continued, small, scattered, easily dismissed. A flicker in long-range sensors. A brief echo in targeting systems. Nothing that warranted concern. Nothing that disrupted formation. The human ships ahead maintained their retreat, just out of reach. Close enough to track. Far enough to avoid immediate engagement. They are drawing us in, an officer observed. Kildar allowed himself a faint, almost imperceptible smile. They are running. The difference did not matter. Maintain pursuit, he said. Increase speed. Yes, High Executor. The vanguard complied, engines flaring brighter. Distance closed more rapidly now. Soon, the humans would have nowhere left to go. Another transmission flickered briefly on the edge of the network, unrecognized, faint, then gone. Did you detect that? One officer asked. Signal echo, another replied. Nothing of consequence. Kildar said nothing. His focus remained fixed ahead. The system was small. The enemy was weak. The outcome was inevitable. Prepare engagement weapons, he ordered. When within range, eliminate their fleet. Yes, High Executor. Across the Armada, weapon systems came online. Energy built within massive emitters. Targeting arrays locked onto the retreating ships. The distance continued to shrink. Closer. Closer. And still, the humans did not fire. Far beyond Xyler sensors, hidden in the shadow of an asteroid cluster, another fleet watched. It did not broadcast. It did not move. Its presence existed only as a distortion, a whisper in the fabric of space itself. At its center, aboard the flagship Horizon's Edge, Admiral Elias Vance stood before a silent tactical display. No frantic movement. No raised voices. Just data, flowing in clean, controlled streams. They're committed, sir, an officer said. Vance studied the incoming trajectories, the subtle deviations in Xyler formation, the predictable aggression in their advance. Good, he replied quietly. Around him, unseen fleets held position. Thousands of ships, cloaked, silent, waiting. Every movement had been anticipated. Every path mapped long before the first Xyler vessel entered the system. Phase 1, Vance said. The command passed without hesitation. In the darkness between stars, something shifted, just enough to change everything. The void ahead of the Xyler vanguard remained empty. No debris. No mines. No defensive grid. Only the faint trail of human ships retreating deeper into their system, slipping toward the inner orbits as if guided by fear. Their formation lacked discipline, their speed uneven, exactly what Kildar expected from a species untested by true war. Distance to target? He asked. Closing rapidly, High Executor, the navigation officer replied. They cannot maintain this velocity for long. Kildar watched the display without emotion. The outcome had already been decided. The humans had chosen to run. Now they would be hunted. "Prepare forward batteries," he said. "We will end this before they reach their inner defenses." "Yes, High Executor." The command chamber moved with precise efficiency. Targeting systems aligned. Weapons charged. The vanguard tightened its formation, warships sliding into attack positions. It was the same sequence repeated across countless campaigns. Routine. Then one of the destroyers vanished. There was no explosion. No energy spike. One moment it existed, its signal steady, its trajectory fixed. The next, it was gone. A gap appeared in the formation, clean and absolute. "Report," Kaeldar said. Silence answered him. "Destroyer 37 is no longer transmitting," the sensor officer said finally. "No debris detected." "Cloaking?" another officer suggested. "Impossible. We would register energy fluctuations." "Then what happened?" Kaeldar's gaze remained fixed on the display. "Recalibrate sensors," he said. "Expand scan parameters." "Yes, High Executor." The fleet continued forward. Formation held. Weapons remained charged. Then another ship disappeared. This time, a cruiser. It flickered for less than a second, its signal distorting, its outline blurring, and then it was gone, erased without a trace. A ripple passed through the command chamber. Not fear. Not yet. But uncertainty had begun to take shape. "Multiple signal inconsistencies detected," the sensor officer reported. "I am registering transient distortions across local space." "Source?" Kaeldar asked. "Unknown." "Then find it." The officer hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, High Executor." Another flicker. A third ship vanished. This time, the gap formed closer to the center of the vanguard. "Too close. We are under attack," a tactical officer said, his voice controlled but tight. "No identifiable vectors." "Impossible," another replied. "There are no enemy vessels within range." Kaeldar stepped forward. "There is always an enemy," he said quietly. "You simply have not found it." He turned slightly. "Full spectrum scan. Every frequency. Every dimension. I want results." "Yes, High Executor." Across the fleet, sensor arrays surged. Waves of energy spread outward, probing the emptiness for anything hidden. The void answered with silence. Then the attacks accelerated. A destroyer fractured mid-flight, its structure collapsing inward as if crushed by invisible pressure. Another twisted violently, its hull folding in on itself before disappearing. A carrier lost power entirely, drifting for a fraction of a second before vanishing from every system. No explosions. No debris. No pattern. Just absence. "Enemy contact remains unconfirmed," the sensor officer said, disbelief creeping into his tone. "We cannot track what is engaging us." "Then you are not looking correctly," Kaeldar replied. His voice remained calm, but his focus sharpened. This was no longer routine. Something else was at work here, something the Dominion had not encountered before. "Adjust formation," he ordered. "Close ranks. Defensive pattern." "Yes, High Executor." The vanguard compressed, ships drawing closer together, overlapping fields of fire. Weapons shifted outward, scanning for targets that refused to appear. Ahead, the human vessels continued their retreat, unchanged. "They are still running," an officer said. Kaeldar studied the display. "No," he said. "They are leading us." Before anyone could respond, a burst of interference rippled through the command network. Not a signal. Not a transmission. Something else, an intrusion that lasted less than a second. Then it was gone. "Report," Kaeldar said. "Momentary disruption," the communications officer replied. "No lasting effect." Kaeldar said nothing. On the display, another ship vanished. This time, it was not alone. 3 more followed in rapid succession, each one disappearing in a different sector of the formation. The pattern was no longer random. It was precise. Coordinated. "We are taking sustained losses," the tactical officer said. Enemy engagement remains invisible. Return fire, Kildar ordered. Target what? Kildar turned, his gaze cold. Everything. The order propagated instantly. Across the vanguard, weapons discharged. Beams of energy cut through the void, sweeping across empty space. Missiles launched in wide arcs, detonating where sensors suggested anomalies might exist. The darkness remained unchanged. Nothing was hit. Nothing responded. The fleet fired into nothingness. Inside the horizon's edge, Admiral Elias Vance watched the battle unfold without speaking. The tactical display did not show chaos. It showed patterns, clean, predictable lines of movement that mapped perfectly against the Dominion's doctrine. Every decision Kildar made had been anticipated long before his fleet entered the system. Vanguard density increasing, an officer said. They're tightening formation. Vance nodded slightly. They're trying to defend against what they can't see. Should we escalate? Not yet. Around them, the hidden fleet remained silent. Thousands of ships held position, cloaked beyond conventional detection. They did not move unless necessary. They did not fire unless commanded. Precision defined everything. Phase 1 performance? Vance asked. The AI interface responded instantly, its voice neutral. Enemy cohesion degrading. Predictive models indicate rising uncertainty within command structure. Probability of irrational escalation increasing. Good, Vance said. He studied the Xylar formation. It was shifting now, subtle changes in spacing, adjustments in response to unseen threats. They were reacting, but without understanding. That was the point. Continue pressure, he said. Maintain distance. No exposure. Yes, Admiral. Orders flowed outward, invisible and exact. Across the battlefield, human weapons engaged again. A Xylar cruiser distorted, its hull stretching unnaturally before collapsing into a point of nothing. A destroyer lost power, drifting for a heartbeat before vanishing entirely. Another ship attempted evasive maneuvers, only to disappear mid-turn. Each strike was deliberate. Each loss was calculated. Back aboard the Dominion's Wrath, the command chamber had grown quieter. Not from control, but from realization. We have lost 14 ships, the tactical officer said. No confirmed enemy positions. Kildar remained still. Then we adapt, he said. Increase sensor resolution. Deploy reconnaissance drones. I want visual confirmation. Yes, High Executor. Small craft launched from the fleet, spreading outward in search of the unseen threat. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the drones began to disappear. One after another, their signals cut off without warning. Drones lost, the sensor officer said. All units. Kildar's gaze hardened. Then we are not facing absence, he said. We are facing something we do not yet understand. He stepped closer to the display, studying the empty space where his ships had vanished. The Xylar Dominion had faced resistance before. Entire civilizations had united against them. Fleets had risen, burned brightly, and then vanished under overwhelming firepower. There had been desperate tactics, clever ambushes, even moments of unexpected defiance, but always within the limits of understanding. Every enemy could be seen, measured, broken. This was different. High Executor Kildar stood motionless as the tactical display updated again. Another vessel had disappeared, no signature, no trace, no wreckage. The gap it left behind hung like an unanswered question. Losses, he said. 23 confirmed, High Executor, the tactical officer replied. More unverified. We cannot track the source of engagement. Kildar's gaze narrowed slightly. Numbers mattered less than comprehension. Without it, even the strongest fleet became vulnerable. Then we force them to reveal themselves, he said. How? Kildar turned. By removing their advantage. He gestured toward the display. They rely on concealment. Disrupt the environment. Saturate the area with energy pulses. Collapse any field that allows them to hide. The order spread instantly. Across the fleet, emitters powered up, releasing waves of destabilizing energy into the surrounding void. Space itself seemed to ripple as the pulses expanded, interfering with anything attempting to remain unseen. For a moment, the darkness shifted. Faint distortions flickered across the sensors, brief, fragmented shapes that refused to resolve into anything concrete. There, an officer said. Multiple contacts, uncertain classification. Lock onto them, Kaldar ordered. We cannot maintain a stable target. Then fire anyway. Weapons discharged. Beams lanced through the distortions, tearing across the empty expanse. Nothing remained. The shapes dissolved, leaving only silence behind. They are adjusting, the sensor officer said. Their signatures are fluctuating. Kaldar studied the display. The distortions had not been ships. They had been something else, echoes, projections, misdirection. They want us to chase illusions, he said. Then what do we target? The officer asked. Kaldar's voice hardened. Everything that is not us. The Dominion fleet unleashed its firepower. Energy beams carved through space in wide arcs, intersecting at calculated intervals. Missiles detonated in overlapping patterns, each explosion designed to reveal hidden objects through shockwave interference. The void became a lattice of destruction, a net cast blindly into the unknown. For the first time, something answered. A human ship appeared. It did not decloak in the traditional sense. It simply became visible, its outline resolving as if stepping forward from another layer of reality. Its hull was unlike anything the Xyler had encountered, smooth, modular, its surface shifting subtly as energy flowed beneath it. Target acquired! The tactical officer shouted. Fire! Kaldar said. A barrage of weapons converged on the ship. Beams struck, missiles detonated, energy flared. And the vessel vanished. The attacks passed through empty space. Contact lost, the sensor officer said, disbelief evident. Another ship appeared, then another. Each one materialized for only a moment, long enough to be seen, then disappeared before any strike could land. They are phasing, an officer said. Transitioning between states. Not cloaking, another added. Something else. Kaldar's focus sharpened. This was no longer concealment. This was control over engagement itself. Predict their emergence points, he ordered. If they must appear to strike, then they can be anticipated. The tactical systems adapted, analyzing patterns, projecting likely positions. Probability models active, the AI reported. Confidence low. Low is sufficient, Kaldar said. Prepare intercept fire. Across the fleet, weapons recalibrated, targeting empty space where the enemy might appear. For a brief moment, the battlefield held still. Then the humans attacked. Ships materialized in precise locations, exactly where the Dominion had predicted. Weapons fired instantly. And missed. The human vessels shifted again, not retreating, but sliding sideways through space in ways that defied conventional motion. Their positions changed between one instant and the next, never occupying the same coordinates long enough to be struck. In return, their attacks landed with precision. A Dominion cruiser shuddered as its engines failed, systems collapsing without visible damage. Another ship lost its weapon arrays, power drained in a single, controlled surge. A third simply ceased to exist, its structure folding inward before vanishing. They are targeting systems, not hulls, the tactical officer said. Selective strikes. They are demonstrating control, Kaldar replied. His voice remained steady, but the realization settled heavily. This was not random destruction. It was deliberate restraint. Why? An officer asked. They could destroy us. Kaldar did not answer immediately. Because they choose not to, he said finally. A new signal cut through the command network. Clear. Stable. Human. Xyler Dominion Fleet, the voice said, the same calm tone as before. Withdrawal. This conflict is unnecessary. Silence followed. Kildar stepped forward, his gaze fixed on the display. Around him, his officers waited. They offer terms, one said quietly. They offer surrender, another corrected. Kildar's eyes narrowed. No, he said. They offer mercy. The word hung in the air, unfamiliar. They believe they have already won, he continued. That we will accept their terms. Should we? An officer asked, the question barely audible. Kildar turned, his presence filling the chamber. We are the Dominion, he said. We do not yield. He faced the display again. Full advance, he ordered. All fleets. Break their formations. Force them into open engagement. Yes, High Executor. The command propagated instantly. Across the battlefield, the Dominion Armada surged forward, abandoning defensive patterns in favor of overwhelming force. Thousands of ships accelerated, converging on the human positions, determined to bring them into direct confrontation. For a moment, nothing changed. Then the battlefield shifted. Space around the Dominion fleet warped subtly. Asteroids altered course, drifting into new trajectories. Gravitational currents shifted, pulling ships slightly off their intended paths. Formation integrity began to degrade, not through attack, but through manipulation. They are altering the environment, the sensor officer said. Using gravitational fields as weapons. Compensate, Kildar ordered. We are attempting to, but... Another ship disappeared. Then 3 more. The attacks had resumed, but now they were coordinated with the shifting terrain. Every movement the Dominion made placed them in worse positions, exposing weaknesses they could not anticipate. They are controlling the battlefield, the tactical officer said. Every variable. Kildar watched as his fleet struggled to adapt, their precision unraveling under unseen pressure. For the first time, he felt it, not uncertainty, not confusion, but something deeper. Recognition. This is not defense, he said quietly. This is preparation. As if in response, the darkness around them changed. Signals flared across the sensors, not faint distortions, not fleeting echoes, but solid, undeniable contacts. Hundreds of them. Human ships emerged from nothing, their forms resolving in. The battlefield fell silent, but it was not peace. Hundreds of human warships held position in perfect formation, their presence undeniable now. No distortion, no flicker, only controlled stillness. They surrounded the Xylar Armada with quiet precision, closing every path without firing a single shot. Inside the Dominion's wrath, no one spoke. High Executor Kildar studied the tactical display, every angle of retreat blocked, every formation disrupted before it could be rebuilt. His fleet still outnumbered the visible human ships in certain sectors, but the numbers no longer meant anything. Not here. Not like this. They are holding fire, a tactical officer said, his voice low. Kildar nodded once. They are waiting. For what? Kildar did not answer immediately. His gaze moved across the human formations, noting their spacing, their alignment, their discipline. They had not rushed to destroy. They had not exploited the chaos. They had positioned themselves and stopped. They are giving us a choice, he said at last. Before anyone could respond, the human signal returned. Xylar Dominion Fleet, the voice said steady and clear. You are surrounded. Further advance will result in your destruction. Withdraw now. No threat. No anger. Only certainty. An officer shifted uneasily. High Executor, our losses are irrelevant, Kildar interrupted. He straightened, posture rigid once more. The Dominion had never yielded. Not to resistance, not to uncertainty, not to fear. We break through, he said. Concentrate fire on the nearest sector. Overwhelm their line. But that is an order. Yes, High Executor. Across the fleet, commands propagated instantly. Weapons powered up, targeting systems aligning toward a single vector. The Dominion would force a path, crush whatever stood before it, and reassert control. Fire! The void erupted. Beams of energy lanced outward, converging on the selected sector. Missiles followed in tight formation, their trajectories calculated for maximum impact. The concentrated strike was enough to shatter most defenses. It hit nothing. The human ships in that sector shifted, no sudden movement, no frantic evasion. They simply moved aside, their formation adjusting with fluid precision. The barrage passed through the space they had occupied, detonating harmlessly in the distance. Before the Dominion could react, the response came. Not destruction. Interruption. A pulse rippled across the battlefield, invisible yet immediate. Dominion targeting systems flickered, then failed. Weapons lost lock. Power levels fluctuated across multiple vessels. What is happening? The tactical officer demanded. Systems are being overridden. Another replied. We are losing control of. A cruiser near the front line went dark. Its engines shut down, its weapons offline, its shields collapsing without damage. It drifted intact but helpless. Then another ship followed. And another. They are disabling us, the officer said, disbelief creeping into his voice. Not destroying, disabling. Kildar watched the display as his fleet faltered, systems failing in precise patterns. The humans were not striking randomly. They were choosing exactly what to remove, exactly what to leave intact. They could end this, an officer said quietly. Kildar said nothing. The battlefield remained controlled. Every Dominion action met with a measured response, every escalation answered with restraint. The humans were not trying to win. They already had. Another transmission cut through the silence. This is your final warning, the human voice said. Stand down and withdraw. Kildar stepped forward, his gaze fixed on the display. Around him, his officers waited, tension tightening the air. For the first time since entering the system, there was no clear path forward. Attack, and the fleet would be dismantled piece by piece. Hold position, and they would remain trapped. Retreat, and admit defeat. We can still fight, one officer said, though the conviction in his voice had faded. If we commit fully, we will lose everything, another interrupted. They are controlling the engagement. Every variable. Kildar closed his eyes briefly, then opened them again. The Dominion had been built on certainty. On the belief that strength alone defined outcome. That overwhelming force could solve any conflict. But this was not force. This was something else. Open a channel, he said. The command chamber froze. High Executor? The communications officer asked. Open it. Yes. High Executor. The connection established instantly. For the first time, Kildar spoke directly. You claim superiority, he said, his voice carrying across the void. Yet you do not finish this. Why? There was a pause, brief but deliberate. Then the response came, not the same neutral voice as before, but another. Different. Human. We don't need to, Admiral Elias Vance said. The tone was calm, controlled, without arrogance. You have the advantage, Kildar said. You could destroy us. Yes. Then why hesitate? Another pause. Because we're not here to conquer you, Vance replied. We're here to stop you. The words settled heavily. You expect us to retreat, Kildar said. I expect you to choose, Vance answered. Leave, or lose everything you brought with you. Silence followed. Kildar looked around the chamber. His officers avoided his gaze, their focus fixed on the displays, on the reality they could no longer ignore. Ships drifting powerless. Formations broken. Weapons useless. The Dominion had never faced this. An enemy that could destroy them, and chose not to. What happens if we return? Kildar asked. Vance's response came without hesitation. Then we'll be ready. No threat. Just fact. Kildar exhaled slowly. For the first time, he allowed himself to consider something he had never needed to before. Limits. Not of power, but of understanding. Signal the fleet, he said quietly. The communications officer hesitated. High Executor. Kael'dar's gaze hardened. Do it. Yes, High Executor. The order transmitted across the armada. Disengage. All units. Prepare for withdrawal. One by one, Dominion ships powered down their weapons. Engines shifted, reorienting away from the human formations. The advance halted, replaced by controlled retreat. The human fleet did not pursue. They held position, watching, ensuring the withdrawal remained orderly. No final strike. No parting blow. Only silence. Aboard the horizon's edge, Admiral Vance observed the retreating armada without expression. Dominion forces are disengaging, an officer reported. No signs of counterattack. Maintain position, Vance said. Do not pursue. Yes, Admiral. The tactical display shifted as the Xylar fleet withdrew, their numbers diminished but not annihilated. The system grew quieter with each passing moment, the tension easing but never fully disappearing. They'll come back, the officer said. Maybe, Vance replied. And if they do? Vance looked at the empty space where the battle had unfolded. Then we remind them, he said. The last Dominion ship vanished into folded space, leaving nothing behind. No wreckage. No victory markers. Only absence. The fleet remained silent for a moment longer, then began to reposition, slipping back into the hidden layers of the system. Invisible again. Vance stood alone at the viewport, the stars steady beyond the glass. Power had decided the outcome. But it was restraint that defined it. And somewhere beyond the edge of human space, an empire that had never known fear,